Welcome back, citizens of the cosmos, fans of Aquarius 3E all around the world, to another episode of Around the World in San Francisco. As you can see here, we have some improvements in our episodes. The first thing is, I've put the actual number of miles that I've gone around the world in San Francisco. As you can see, I'm closing in on 24,000 miles since I started this journey. The circumference of the globe is 25,000 miles, so I'm almost literally have gone around the world in San Francisco. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of my writings that I do while I'm on my bicycle. While I'm riding my bicycle, I always get a ton of inspiration, so I'm always constantly writing stuff. And I figured now I can read them to you as you can see me making my journey. So, this episode, first I'm going to start with a meeting with Stony Gandolf at Safeway. Okay, let me set the stage for you. So it's like 9 p.m. on a weekday, and I walk into Safeway to get some groceries. Just some basic stuff like yogurt, like some breakfast stuff, some vegetables, some fish to cook for dinner. And I'm looking around for the fish, and I see this older guy kind of like looking at the produce section. He's kind of looking around, and I pass by him and he says, "Whoa, oh man, I'm out of it." And I kind of like chuckled to myself, and I kept walking, and then I walked back and I was like, "Hey, do you know where the fish is?" And we just like started up this conversation. And so this is one thing that I wrote. Just had this conversation with this hippie guy. He was super stoned, told me so. Just been recording 20 hours straight. While he was talking, I broke into tears. He confirmed everything I've been doing and I've believed in. Just be you to the fullest extent, even if no one is watching. He talked about how Allen Ginsberg described seeing Bob Dylan perform for the first time, like watching fire and forms of energy on stage. That's me times 69 trillion. The voice of an age, multilingual megastar, Uber Dylan, around the world in San Francisco. All of it will come true. Actually, all of it is already true. And so, Stony Gandalf is what I'll call him, because he was an older guy. He had like white hair and he was stoned. Like I said, he told me so. But sometimes I think like you come across these kind of people and it's like a message from the cosmos. Like you just kind of needed to hear this from this person, and this person was there, to give you this message and talk to you. And actually, like after we talked, he was like, "If I see you again, man, you won't even recognize me, and I won't even recognize you. It'll be like we never met." So he's like really just like constantly in the moment, And one of the things that he was telling me, he was like, you already found your path. You already know what you're doing. You just need to keep going. Just keep going. Like keep putting your full heart into it. Don't worry about the outside. What's going on the outside. And he gave like so many stories and examples that like really inspired me. One of them was, he was talking about like Homer, the blind poet or sage from ancient Greece who wrote, the Iliad and the Odyssey. But actually, he didn't write those. Those were passed down through oral tradition, right? So they weren't written down until hundreds of years later. So, he was saying like, sometimes he's just like doing something and all of a sudden like an idea comes to him. Like it's like almost like downloaded from the universe. And if you think about it, like as human beings, right, we rely so much on these, phones and this and that. But like in the past, like people had incredible memories. Like they could think about stuff and then recite like hours and hours of things. And so I think like what I'm doing with Around the World in San Francisco and Aquarius 3E is like just touching on that, just like scratching the surface, which is that, I'm riding my bicycle around the city, and all of a sudden like I get this idea, I get this thought, right? And, those things, I don't know how much they're really encouraged, right? Especially in, modern like schooling, like public schools and this and that. It's like if it doesn't have to do with the assignment, right? If it doesn't have to do with like what the teacher assigned, like it's a waste of your time. And that's kind of foolish. You think about it, like that little bit of knowledge that they have that they're giving to you is like so minuscule compared with like how immense and wonderful the cosmos is. And so when I get these messages like and these things that I think about, like I really trust them more and more. I trust it and I write it down. Okay? So let's keep going. I took this photo in front of the Beat Museum the other day, and this is what I wrote. Just chillaxing with Jack Kerouac a bit. He was all like, autumn is nice in the city. I used to wear white sweaters like that too. And then he was all, back in my day, it was the Bees, the Beats, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, the Beach Boys, bacon, baked potato, put emojis there. But you on a different level, Playboy. That's why you get an A. You the A's. Aquarius, Awesome, AMC, Atlantis, Aquarius 3E. This is some real shiznits you up on. I'm going to enjoy this show. Movie, camera, and popcorn emoji. And so, Jack Kerouac, he's a big inspiration of mine. He did this type of ticker tape writing on his typewriter where he would just like write stream of consciousness. Like he would just write, and then the typewriter would keep printing, and he would just keep going, and then he would go back and edit it. And that's kind of like what I'm doing now with Aquarius 3E around the world in San Francisco. As you can see, all of these writings, I'm going to compile the best of them, and create a film, and I'm going to create a book basically to tell my story, but in the meantime, I'm just explaining all of these things so you can understand like what I'm doing, like what's going on. And then after my last episode that I posted, it was faith that guided us around the world in San Francisco. I wrote this. So the gap between me and everyone else continues to widen. I told you all, there's a massive difference between an artist and a heartist, someone genuinely cultivating their heart. Can anyone just do such a thing if they want to? Well, I welcome them. There's a lot of things to consider. 1, do you have the physical stamina to work for your dream every day, 7 days a week? 2, after your physical energy has been drained, do you have the mental capacity to constantly churn out content? 3, can you go without praise or accolades? Can you just do it because you love it and enjoy it without any reward? 4, can you abandon your social life, the things you like to do for your cause? 5, can you withstand doubt and hatred from others and endure through uncertainty? I can keep listing things for you. The standard is really, really high. But I think in the same way someone like Trump appeared to push America forward, someone like me appears to push the heart and imagination forward. And so this is one of the things that I've talked about is like the difference between an artist and a heartist. Okay? An artist is a creative person. They're doing creative type things, and that's all great. But it's completely different than a heartist. It's like comparing like preschool to college, because a heartist is someone who's working on their heart. They're constantly improving their person to become a better and better person, elevating their heart standard, elevating their moral level and their moral values. And so that's why the quality of their work changes as well. So a heartist is on a different level. And to be a heartist, actually this is what Stony Gandolf talked about, really means like to be spiritually in tune. And he talked about this, like those people who are actually like spiritually in tune, it's really, really hard to get support because the world is like stuck in mud. The world is like full of filth, right? So the majority of the stuff that you're seeing and that you're attracted to is like not good, really. If you think about it, it's like at a really lower level compared with the arts of the past, with the arts of like ancient times, which aimed at like improving your character, gaining wisdom from the universe. And so I'm going to talk about Bob Dylan and the Beatles a lot because they're a big influence on me. And so this is in response to an article titled, "What is Bob Dylan's opinion on the Beatles?" And I said, there was mutual respect and admiration for one another, the Beatles and Bob Dylan. The Beatles watched him perform live in England and started incorporating more thought-provoking lyrics into their songs, Beyond Love Me Do, and Dylan moved on from his solo performance to perform with an electric band after he saw what they did. There may have been a little competition between him and Lennon, but I think it was more just a creative competition, like who can do the next best thing. And from what I understand, Dylan got the Beatles high for the first time at a hotel in New York. So the Beatles and Bob Dylan, to me, those are the two primary story arcs of the previous generation, the generation of the 60s, that sprouted all of this, a lot of the changes that happened in the universe. I think that those people actually come from a different cosmos, like this culture and this music that they brought, comes from a different part of the galaxy, right? So it's a completely new thing. And it all came for a purpose. And so a lot of the things that I talk about and write about are influenced by the Beatles and Bob Dylan, and I would also say a scholar in what they did. Not only in playing their music, but also their story. And continuing on with the Beatles theme, so there's another article that I read. Paul McCartney sets record straight on who broke up the Beatles. I didn't instigate the split. And I said, it was naturally coming to an end. Like all great things, there's a beginning, middle, and end. John Lennon was just upset that Paulie announced it because he wanted to keep it private before their final album was released. Also, I think John Lennon felt that he started the band, and so he should be the one to destroy it. Creation and destruction, they're the same thing on opposite ends of the spectrum. Great creators can be great destroyers as well. Sometimes you have to destroy things in order to create better things. And here's another photo that I took in front of AMC theaters. Those of you who have been following me for a bit know that I'm really invested and interested in AMC theaters. It goes back to January and that whole thing that happened with GME, GameStop. There's a massive short interest that was placed by hedge funds on AMC. Long story short, AMC is a big underdog that's going to make a huge victory. And all of the apes, retail investors, are part of the story. I'm one of the apes. And I said, the thing about the San Francisco 49ers right now is that I don't think they truly believe at this point. Shanahan is a proven play caller, but to inspire men to will themselves over other men is another thing altogether. Harbaugh was great at that. Guys would even play injured for him. You gotta really believe, and there's different degrees of believing. Like when someone says, do you believe? And you say yes. Just because the word says yes doesn't mean you truly believe. Faith is at the core of all things. I really believe that. And that's another big theme of mine is faith, like belief, right? And some people call that God, some people call it spirituality, some people call it just like believing in yourself. And so whatever it is that you're doing, you're dedicated to, it does take a lot of faith, right? There's so much uncertainty and doubt, right? It's like, can I financially make this work? Like, what will my family think about this? What will my friends think about this? Like, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm a failure, right? There's so many things that can cause doubt, so you have to have an immense amount of faith, like trust that what I'm doing is worthwhile. It's going to work out in the end. And so I need to keep doing it, even though there's no absolute certainty that it's going to work. And I took a photo here by Oracle Park. I said, I love listening to the Beatles in the fall. That's when I first heard them my freshman year at UCLA. If you can believe that. They help me stay positive, and their voices working together gives me a ton of energy and excitement. And that's definitely true. Listening to music that I like, especially like at specific times, it like reminds me of that time. So it's almost like music has this effect of like, it can almost like make you time travel, right? Like let's say you have a song that, it reminds you of a good friend, let's say, like you and your friend listen to this song, and you listen to this song again, it can like really make you remember that friend, You know what I mean? Or remember that experience, or like where you were at that time. You know, music has a really powerful effect like that. Oh, here's another video in front of AMC. Said, at least for me, everything involves cultivation, working on your character and heart. That includes investing too. Notice, compare my YouTube videos about AMC with everyone else's. I hardly ever talk about the price of the stock, the technicals. I barely provide analysis of the stock, other than that it's heavily shorted by the hedge funds. For me, the important thing is the story. Why is AMC important to me and others? Why do I believe in it? If the only reason is to get really rich, I don't think that's a strong enough reason. The motivation will fade away after a while. But if the story is deeper than that, it changes everything. And that goes along with what I was saying, you know, about faith, right? Like, and believing in something. Like, what is your why? What is your reason? You know, and for me, like, money cannot just be the sole reason. Because if it is, it's going to fade. That your purpose is going to fade. It's not strong enough because money comes and goes, right? And, you know, I think having a strong purpose, reason for it, beyond like material gain is really important. Here I am in front of Oracle Park. I said, a lot of people wonder about Homer, apparently a blind man who wrote or spoke the Iliad and the Odyssey. So modern society sort of discredits these types of people, like Shakespeare as well. They say they didn't exist, it was numerous people. The way I see it, those people did exist. They were just advanced spiritually, so the things they left for mankind were guided by the heavens. That's really how it works. And if Homer was blind, he couldn't write, and I can relate to that. Because I think a ton of great stuff that I just speak out, and then I type it here, save it, and post it on YouTube later. I think in the future, people will say the same sort of stuff about me. That is, for folks who aren't spiritually advanced, they cannot grasp these things. And this ties back into like Stony Gandolf, like talking to me about like getting messages from the cosmos, you know, and ideas, like where they come from, you know, and trusting those things, that they're coming to you for a reason, right? As well as like the difference between an artist and a heartist, right? Because if someone isn't like spiritually cultivating, right, then their why, their reason, I think it's at a lower level. It's like, I want to be famous, I want to get rich, I want like people to, I want to get girls, I want this, I want that, right? Those are all lower reasons, right? And that even if you got those things, you would find out that they leave you really empty. Like the why is not strong enough. Oh, here's something I wrote a few years ago on October 12th, 2017. I said, sometimes I like to look at the night skyline of the city, at all of the lights in the windows of the buildings, and think about the people living there. What are they doing? What is their story? Where did they come from today? Are they brushing their teeth, watching TV? What difficulties have they come across in their life, and how are they overcoming them? We're all living together in this exact moment. I wonder if they ever think of me. It's a beautiful life. And I like that writing. It's maybe that could be like the beginning of a movie or something like that. Oh, here's another great piece. Took this picture at Golden Gate Park on October 12th, 2017 at the Conservatory of Flowers by there. And there was a butterfly exhibit going on. And so I learned about the butterflies, like I watched them and I learned their story. And so I wrote this. A butterfly goes through an intense process to become that beautiful. After a caterpillar creates the cocoon, it will actually dissolve almost its entire body, except for its eyes and antenna. Then it emerges as a butterfly. There was an exhibit at the Conservatory of Flowers at Golden Gate Park where I watched the butterflies and learned about this. I feel like my story is definitely like a butterfly's. And you know, that's a really beautiful story, how the butterfly, you know, does that, because we all admire the beauty of the butterfly, but to understand like the process to become a butterfly, it's like really intense. Think about that. The caterpillar dissolves its entire body. Think about that. Like it's in the cocoon, right? So let's say you're going through like hard times, right? You know, you're not sure you're not sure what's going to happen next. It's almost like you're dissolving yourself, right? And creating a new being, right? A more beautiful being, a butterfly. So I really enjoyed that story, that writing. Oh, and then I took a picture of my bike. That time I had 13,700 miles on this bike. I have another 10,000 on the share bike. But anyway, I wrote this. Only about 1,300 miles to go until I reach 25,000 miles. I have another 10,000 miles on the SF bike share, Beatles bikes, and I will literally have gone around the world in San Francisco, the circumference of the globe. At that point, I'll begin compiling all my writings during this journey and craft a story for a book, followed by a screenplay. By that point, AMC should squeeze, and even if it doesn't, I'll still will this reality into existence. That's how bad I want this. It's like MJ times 69 trillion. And, that's my story, right? And I'm telling this story through these episodes of Around the World in San Francisco and other stuff that I'm doing with Aquarius 3E. Here's a photograph I took in front of the Tai Chi. That's the Taoist symbol, the yin and yang. And I said, I refuse to be defined. I'm constantly evolving and growing. Back in high school, I was a pretty good student. All honors classes in the drama club, president of the speech team, and all that. But I was also on the varsity tennis team. So am I a nerd, thespian, jock? You can't define me. All those social structures are just there to give insecure people comfort, like they belong to something, and their social circle gives them validation. But those things all inhibit growth on a person, in my view. Older people understand this, especially older women. They've realized that the days in this earth are numbered. They don't have too many attachments, so they're really interested in learning and growing. Oh, here's a nice photograph I took on October 16th, 2017. I put the lyrics of a Neil Young song called Heart of Gold. It's a really beautiful song. I even covered it if you look through my songs in my YouTube. I said, I like this Neil Young song, Heart of Gold, because I really have been to Hollywood and the Redwoods, like it says in the lyrics, looking and searching for that heart of gold. So the lyrics are, I've been to Hollywood, I've been to Redwood, I crossed the ocean for a heart of gold. And, I lived in Los Angeles, and I was like in the entertainment industry there. I went to UCLA, so I actually have been to Hollywood, and I've been to the Redwoods too. And the whole time I am searching, right? I'm spiritually seeking, I'm searching for a heart of gold, because as a artist, as you're improving your character, you're purifying your heart, you're becoming a better and better person. Oh, and here's a photograph I took. I was watching some Beatles footage, just like some archive footage, and them playing at the Cavern, which is like a club in Liverpool. And I said, what a fantastic formation. You have the symmetry with Paul McCartney being lefty and John Lennon right-handed, Ringo Starr in the middle, like they're about to run the zone read option. It's just very aesthetic and pleasing to the eye. George Harrison off screen on this shot. Meanwhile, the sweater vests are pretty swaggy. Brian Epstein, their manager, had them change from greaser leather jackets and black jeans to the more professional look. It's like, you want to be cool, or do you want to win and change the world? The choice is yours. And the Beatles were winners, so they chose the correct path. Here's a photograph I took while doing some of my food deliveries. I said, starting to get cold in the city reminds me when I first started this whole Around the World in San Francisco thing. I feel it's like playing a playoff game at Lambeau Field. Nothing comes easy. You can't ride as fast at night and your hands get cold. But it's all about clock control, ball control. Don't make mistakes and just get points on the board. Play with a lead and make them have to pass every down. So, that's one of the ways I entertain myself while I'm doing my food deliveries. I'm writing things, but I'm just like creating stories. Like I'm imagining myself like being in Lambeau Field during a playoff game on a cold day, trying to get a win over the Packers, right? With the fans like yelling, like that's a pretty hostile, that's a tough environment to play, in that cold, like sub-zero temperatures. So you have to have some real heart and gut to overcome that. I just hit 600 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much to everybody. A lot of those people are just people that I've met, from all around, from San Francisco, doing my food deliveries. Just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And this is what I wrote. I said, darn proud of this. I'm 33 years old. Most folks have given up on their dreams by this point. But for me, I'm just getting started. My story is one of tragedy turned to triumph. It's like I was in pain all these years, but I still had a memory of who I was. I remembered who I was from the things I had done in the past. Bruce Lee said that pain stays with you until you learn a lesson. And I think the lesson was that I never really cherished myself. It took me a really long time to learn to cherish and care for myself. I always went out of my way to be good and help others, but didn't treat myself too well. I always thought that anyone could just come up with creative stuff and do cool and fun stuff like that. But that's not true. Not everyone is equal in gifts and talents. That's a myth that was definitely perpetuated from the schooling I grew up around. When I was in all that pain, I lost my abilities. I couldn't sing, I couldn't think of funny things, and that's when I realized those things I were doing were so special, and that's why my story is so remarkable. And that's part of my story, is that I've been dealing with really serious chronic pain that started about 11 years ago when I went through an orthodontic procedure that didn't go well. Left me a lot of pain in my jaw and my teeth. And it's been a journey, a lot of getting back to who I am. It was just like remembering like who I was. Let's say like even though I couldn't like write cool things at the moment, like I remembered I was like, yeah, but I used to be able to do this. So somewhere in me it's still possible, right? And like even if I couldn't sing, right? I'm in so much pain, I couldn't even sing. I was like, yeah, but I did sing in the past, so that ability is still there. So, part of my healing process, it's like remembering. I'm remembering who I was, my true self, and I'm letting all those things come out, and by going through this, I'll definitely cherish it now. Like I won't just think like, oh, everybody can do that, because that's not true. Not everybody can. We're all endowed with different gifts and abilities, different ranges and levels of abilities. And our job here on this earth is, to do the very best you can. Aeneas Williams, he's a Pro Bowl and Hall of Fame player, football player. In his Hall of Fame speech, he said, you need to leave empty. Like leave the world empty, like give it everything you've got. And for me, that's my goal, is I'm just working every day, doing the absolute best that I can, leaving all my abilities, my heart, all on the table. Well, that's enough for today. That ends our storytelling for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to watch my journey around the world in San Francisco and listen to my story as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment, say hello. I comment back to pretty much everybody. And then, if you want to support, there's some links below as well that you can support me through PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, all that cool stuff is down there. Not required, but if you'd like to, feel free to. Thanks again for watching this episode of Around the World in San Francisco. Keep pursuing your dreams one step at a time. Nothing is impossible. Just focus on the possibility that's right in front of you, one step at a time, one bike pedal at a time, as I'm doing. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.